Good to see you. Good to see your
Good to
face
see
finally.
you. Yes, good to see your face.
Yeah, we'll keep it nice and light and breezy, but these conversations are just kind of a good way to kind of pay things forward to people in the community who are struggling. I always remember that when I had really severe anxiety and depression, the thing that became the glimmer of hope that really started my recovery was encountering somebody else who had gotten a lot further along than I thought was even possible. And so these stories are very, very powerful for people kind of realizing what kind of changes can actually take place. Um,
Sure.
so if you wouldn't mind, I'm curious if you'd be willing to kind of just start us right from kind of that dark space that you were in at the beginning. What was kind of that like low point where you were thinking to yourself, okay, I've got a problem here that needs to get dealt with. I need to get some assistance.
Sure. Well, I have been on medication for over 25 plus years. Uh, Married 31 years, probably on medication, maybe more than 30 years then, I guess. But yeah. So it's just the middle of last year, I felt like, you know, I need to try to get off this medication. And just, I felt like it was controlling my life.
Hmm.
So I self-medicated to half of what my psychiatrist actually had prescribed. That was July of last year. And in July, I went through a family event where my children were extremely concerned about my mental health and felt they obviously knew I self-medicated and that's the road I'm going on, and zero support from them. I had to get the support of my wife this time because there had been other times where I said, I'm done with this. I want to get off this stuff.
Yeah.
And so I stepped back and I got the support of my wife this time. That was July. And so along the process, I was searching for someone to help me. I needed
Mhm.
help. I couldn't do
Right.
it alone. We couldn't do it together. We couldn't rely on my current doctors because they're in fact in my August meeting with my psychiatrist, he was like, you need to increase your medication.
Right. Right.
You're going down. And I didn't tell him that I had cut it in half. I just told him what was going on in my life. And he said, you need more medication.
Right.
You need the medication to be able to survive or to move on, to avoid the hospital. That's the number one goal in my life, stay out of the hospital.
Right.
And so I was like, oh man, I'm not going to get support from him. So obviously searching the internet, Googling, saying, help me, kind
Right.
of thing. There's got to be
Right.
someone out there that
Well,
will help me and support me other than my wife. My wife's not
right.
a medical professional. She's not in the industry. She's not
Right.
experienced this other than with me.
Right.
When she experiences it with me, it's we end up in the emergency room. The doctors end up jacking my medication way up
Hmm.
and then trying to find a happy space.
Right.
Well, I know where my happy space is. It's off medication.
There you go.
And so trying to find others that would help me get to that point was a struggle.
Right. Well, and
And so,
what's amazing too is most people don't know, but the whole idea that anxiety is caused by a biochemical deficiency was never even proven in the beginning. It was just a theory, and that theory kind of took hold in the 80s, especially, and started to really ramp up really quickly. But it was disproven in 2005, in 2015, and then again in 2022 by multiple peer-reviewed medical meta studies. So there's no direct causation biochemically. It's not the root cause of the issue. So yeah, it's
well,
amazing.
and then medically speaking, I was diagnosed bipolar manic depressive back in 1987 after a brief reactive psychosis and then some other incidences or events or whatever. So that has been the label that has been placed on me since
Yeah,
late 80s.
yeah,
So that's the viewpoint of my children. My dad's manic
right,
depressive, manic whatever. And so when I actually let them know that I'm working with anxiety solutions, she said, they're like, you're being treated for the wrong thing, or you're that's
right,
not that's not you. What that's the wrong it's like you're on the wrong road or whatever. So I'm like,
So
okay,
I'm curious to for you to share this because I think this is the one of the biggest points of value people listening can get is the redefinition of the problem, right? So you came into that first conversation with me and you told me about your background. And one thing I told you pretty right up front is I said, look, I'm not really concerned with the diagnoses you were given before. You know, what I'm much
right,
more concerned with is what we call the pattern. Like, what is the pattern that's happening internally? Can
yes.
you kind of share, like, what was that sort of pattern and how were you looking at it before? And then when you started kind of entering our world, how did you kind of redefine what the real problem was?
So the the pattern is social events and social gatherings. I mean,
Mhm.
that's where some of the issues would arise whenever we'd have parties or the family would get together or things like that. And so identifying that it was anxiousness and anxiety was a definite breakthrough. I mean, it's like my walking into a room was anxiousness.
Mhm.
Just
Well,
trying
then
to get acceptance from everyone in the room.
there we go.
That was my focus.
There we
I
go.
want everyone to accept me, to love me, to interact with me, to and I mean, it's not me focused. I mean, it's just together. You know what I
Right.
mean? We can talk about you the whole time. I don't care, but I'm there. So you know what I
Right.
mean? It's not like a me. Oh my God, I'm the most important person in this room kind of thing. No, but um, I just wanted to live.
And I remember too that I think I might even said to you at some point to just as a different way to think about it, like you don't have mania, you don't even necessarily have an anxiety problem, you have an acceptance problem. Because what we figured out was I always explain that anxiety is caused by us believing that we have to get something that we're
Mhm.
never gonna get consistently. So for some people, it's feeling in control. For some people, it's feeling totally certain. For some people, it's like this grasping process. The mind is constantly
Sure.
grasping for this thing that seems to slip out of their hands. And for you, it was this, this common pattern a lot of people have where they believe I gotta get acceptance. If I don't have acceptance, I'm not good enough. If I'm not good enough, I'm not going to be loved. And it kind of trickles all the way down to all of our deepest fears.
Right.
Um, so I'm curious, did that make it seem like more solvable to you to kind of realize like, okay, well now I just need to work on this whole requirement of acceptance thing. If I can really tackle that, then it should be a lot simpler, hopefully.
Definitely. I mean, identifying the problem, making sure that it was identified properly is the first
Right.
step. I mean, it's like my kid's point of view, Dad, you're trying to solve the anxiety problem, but you're in the
Right.
wrong room.
Caught up in the
I'm like,
labels.
we're
Yeah.
in the same room.
Right.
We're in the same room. My
Right.
my brain, my mind is here, my brain is here. We're all in the same room. So yeah, it was the labels. It was you know,
So walk us through a couple of the big shifts. I mean, we were working together for 3 months, so there's too much to kind of condense in 10 minutes there from, 90 days.
yes.
But, before how would you kind of describe your old belief system and mindset and your new belief system and mindset, and maybe just a couple of the breadcrumbs that got you from point A to B?
I think, and it's a matter of focus. As we mentioned, I was looking for acceptance, so
Hmm.
I wanted to feel something. It's outward now. It's
Right.
like it's just going outward. It's
Playing
like
the game from the inside out. There you go.
yeah, you're
That's
just
what we say. Yeah.
pouring yourself out rather
Mhm.
than yeah, you're just it's just the focus.
So before you had this belief system of if I don't get acceptance and if the external world doesn't line up with my internal expectations, I don't get to feel whole. I don't get to feel good enough and feel peace of mind. But now you've done this process we refer to, I know you've heard me say it many times, but for the people who've never, done this process, we call it reclaiming your power. Right? So would you say that that's kind of where you're at now, where now you feel like you're more in the driver's seat again? You're not constantly reacting to things.
Absolutely,
Right.
absolutely. And I think a lot of the words I used in the beginning, like knee jerk,
Hmm.
or I think knee jerk is the greatest one that comes to mind. It was a knee jerk reaction as far as, the way I approach things. You're kind of like walking around like a robot, but now it's kind
Right.
of like things are
Right.
smooth. Yeah.
That's awesome. And where, so your energy before was all caught up in maybe other people's opinions or their potential reactions to you, right? There's so much energy going to that. Where is your energy going now? Like you talk
It's
about this change of focus. What is it that your mind is freed up to do now?
just be me and live life to its fullest and spend quality time with people and listen. You know, I mean, uh, just it's just amazing that just the shift in focus. I mean, I can sit across from the table from my sister and we can just talk, and
Be
it's
present. Yeah.
yeah, it's not a major problem. I mean, there's still dynamics and there's still things you got to avoid talking about in family, but
Right.
it's like a large wall or barriers been brought down, and
That's
you can
beautiful.
talk.
That's that's awesome. And you, besides the medications, had you done talk therapy stuff too in the
I had
past?
never done talk therapy. I had,
Okay.
and it's kind of interesting because I am in the process of firing my old psychiatrist. I saw him quarterly, basically, and it's just kind of like a check the box, check the box.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
well, you know where to get your script. You check the
Right.
box, everything's fine. Status quo kind of thing. They'd
Right.
ask the same questions. Just this basic moods things. They
Right.
all the boxes are
Diagnostic. Yeah.
yeah, five
Yeah.
5 minutes sometimes, and it's like
Right.
okay, see you in 12 weeks.
Right. I think that that's the frustrating thing, and it's curious. I'm curious how you would have done in a talk therapy environment because, and most people get some value out of it, but then it kind of hits a little bit of a curve because there's only so much value that can kind of come from talking about how you're feeling. Eventually it does kind of come down to the rewiring, like really, figuring out what are those belief systems that are hiding under the surface that have been causing all the anxiety to bubble up, and how do we really dismantle those and replace those? Unless we're really like digging in and doing the work, there's not a ton of value that's, accomplished from that. But it's so unfortunate that for multiple decades, that you were just kind of treated so just not even really like a human being, just so just analyzed in this very black and white way. It lacks it doesn't cause, that's how exactly how I felt too. I was hospitalized, I was medicated, I was checked in on all those things, and you just get this feeling of like you're not hearing me, you're not listening to me, like you don't know what I'm really feeling. And so that's what, our big focus was is okay, let's not worry about the labels. Let's focus on what your automatic internal response is. Let's focus on what you are feeling, what you are thinking, what you do believe, and then let's work on shifting that. Let's work on actually moving that in a direction that's gonna, cause your life to change. So I hope that you found the process both like that you felt seen. I hope that you did felt seen and validated, but also, challenged at the same time to create like a real change too.
Absolutely. 90 days. Boy, that's aggressive. But I'm glad.
Right.
I'm
Right.
thrilled. I'm excited. And
That's good.
it's absolutely
So
incredible.
so what's ahead of you? So now that you got anxiety off your shoulders, what are you looking forward to in life? What does kind of the vision of the future look like now?
Well, actually, we're going to take advantage of all of the things that you have available at Ty Hicks Coaching. We've got, and then who
Good for you.
knows? Who
Yeah,
knows?
there's always another way, always another avenue of growth.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, what would be your, if you think back to the version of you that was just a few months ago, I mean, it's amazing how much you've changed. I feel like I'm talking to a different guy. But at the same time, what's beautiful about this process is your people aren't really changing so much as they're becoming themselves. And that's what I see
Right.
in you, especially. Like I
Absolutely.
see you're a man with a beautiful soul, a fantastic intention for the world. You're a big ball of energy. You got so much joy to bring. And now that the anxiety is not clouding all of that, it's great to see that kind of radiating through. Um, when you think back to kind of where you were at a couple of months ago, and if you think of somebody who might be watching this who's in that same state, right? They've been dealing with these same worries, concerns for years, decades, maybe even. Is there any kind of like parting advice, just a couple last things that you would want them to really know or hear?
It's possible. It's absolutely possible. Don't do it alone. Make sure you got the support of some other folks before you go down that path, because um, it's great to have others supporting you. Um, as I mentioned, my wife was on board this time,
Yeah.
and that was critical. That was very critical. Um, I remember back, she and I went up to our cabin. Well, we have a family cabin up in the upper lower part of Michigan, and we were there for the weekend, and it was actually at the point where I was still palming my meds,
Hmm.
and she caught me, and I said, "I am so glad you caught me." And I kind
Yeah.
of, on in a part of me felt like I was doing it so that she could catch me or whatever, but she caught me. I said, "You know what? I'm tired of this." And so we just had to come to the
Yeah.
same realization that I want to live. I want to be me. I want to let's. And so that's when she got on board. I was still at half the level that I was prescribed for. And then there was still another piece in the puzzle. And Ty, quite frankly, you're the piece that we needed to be able to say, we can move forward and get
Hmm.
off vacation completely. So we hooked up in early December, and I was still status quo with the medication. And January, I said, this whole process that we're going through, really need to do it 100% clear
Hmm.
and clean to get
Hmm.
the greatest advantage of this process.
Right.
So I tapered off more, and January 23rd was my last dose of medication. So we're here in middle of early March, whatever. And so that was critical as well. That I
Yeah.
thought, I mean, everyone's going to be different. I'm not going to say, oh, yeah, you need to just jump in and go off your meds or whatever.
No,
You
no, we
need the
don't advise
support.
that.
You
Yeah.
need the support of your partner, of some family. I had
Eh,
support of two of my five children. It's not a good, not a good ratio, but at least I had that. I'm
Right.
still trying to get 3, 4, and 5 on board,
Well,
and
and we also, I told you too, and I tell this for everybody too, we've got to deal with the source of the anxiety first. We got to
mhm,
start knocking that away before we start the tapering off the medication. So we had to do it very safely.
yes,
So that's,
definitely,
you did it the
definitely,
right way for sure.
absolutely,
So it is possible. Get support whenever you can around you. Learn how to stop playing the game from the outside in where you're craving something that's outside of your control. Learn how to play the game from the inside out.
absolutely.
And, medication was only kind of the quick fix. So
Right.
good, 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 good. Well, Patrick, you're an incredible human being. It's been
Thank you.
incredible working with you as a client. I'm excited to see where you're headed from here. And it's been a blessing to be just a part of your story. And you said that I was the missing piece, and I want to correct that. You deserve 100% of the credit. It's not that I'm such a genius. It's just the system works. There's just principles that work, and you applied them, which a lot of people are unwilling to do.
Absolutely. And you mentioned already the label.
Hmm.
So the current industry is it's my problem. So I needed the support of someone else to say it's
Right.
possible to do this. And
Right.
you were that.
Yeah.
You were
Yeah,
that.
to detach from the label and instead work on changing the patterns, I think is a key thing that we always have to do, every client. So
Absolutely.
good,
Absolutely.
good.
Appreciate it. It's been a
Absolutely.
blessing to be along this journey, I think.
Well,
I
yeah, it was
think.
exciting to have you. All right, Patrick. Well, it's not goodbye. It's just see you later. And thank you so much for spending a few minutes with the community and being willing to pass on some insights. I'm sure it's going to change a lot of people's lives.
Pray to God. Definitely. Thank you so much.
All right, Patrick. Take care. Be
You
well.
bet. Take care. Yep. Bye bye.
Bye.